So if you've ever worked with data, chances are you've basically lived inside a spreadsheet, right? But what happens when that trusty spreadsheet starts to, buckle under the weight of all your data? Well, today we're going to talk about that exact journey, from the familiar world of cells and formulas to the superpowers of a tool called pandas. And this whole thing, it really all starts with the story of luck, a little frustration, and a discovery that completely changed a career. This one sentence, right here, it kicks off a journey that so many data analysts find themselves on, sometimes without even realizing it's happening. So our guide for all this is Boris Paskover's incredible book, Pandas in Action. We're going to dive right into his personal story because honestly, it just perfectly captures why this tool is such a game changer, especially, and this is key, for anyone who's coming from a spreadsheet background. All right, so let's set the scene. Picture this. It's 2015. Paskaver lands a new job as a data operations analyst. And like so many of us, his entire world revolves around one single piece of software, Microsoft Excel. And I mean, he wasn't just a user, he was an expert.
You know that feeling, right? That moment when the tool you've totally mastered just becomes a part of who you are professionally? For Boris, that identity, man, it was deeply rooted in the world of spreadsheets. And when I say he was committed, I mean he was serious. We're talking about mastering VLOOKUPs, building these super intricate pivot tables, and just genuinely believing that Excel was the be-all and end-all for data analysis. Get this. He was so dedicated that he dropped $100 on Excel books and then showed up to his new job with a printout of the top 50 functions. He was ready to be the spreadsheet guy. And then, bam, he hits a wall. On his very first day, his manager tells him, yeah, priorities have shifted. The team's data had just ballooned. It got so massive that Excel, the very tool he'd spent all this time mastering, was starting to break. It just couldn't handle the load anymore. So, okay, the old way is failing. A new solution has to be found, right? And this leads to a conversation that is, well, it's totally pivotal. But it's also, frankly, kind of funny. So his manager pulls him aside and asks him this really simple question that must have just sounded completely out of left field. I mean, here he is, prepped for all these complex functions and intricate formulas, and now he's being asked about pandas. And yeah, this is the classic reaction. It's totally honest, totally understandable. Of course he was thinking of the bamboo-eating bear, not some data analysis tool. This moment just perfectly captures how completely foreign this new world seemed to him. So, just to be super clear, on one side, you've got the beloved furry animal. On the other, you've got a seriously powerful Python library built for data analysis. And obviously, his manager was talking about the library. So even though he'd never written a single line of code in his life, Boris just dives in. And what he finds, it's not some steep, intimidating mountain. It's actually joyful. It's intuitive. The code just made sense. It was fast. It was powerful. This was his big aha moment, the realization that, hey, coding wasn't just for software engineers. Okay, so we've heard the story, but what exactly is this Pandas library? Let's, open up the toolbox and take a look inside. Okay, at its core, Pandas is a free, open source library that works inside the Python programming language. And its whole purpose, really, is just to make handling data, especially big, messy data sets, way more simple and efficient. Probably the best way to think about it is like a workflow. First, you import your data from places you already know, like CSVs or Excel files. Then you manipulate it. You clean it up, you filter it. Next, you group it to find sums and averages, kind of like you would with a pivot table. You can even combine different data sets together. Think of it like a VLOOKUP, but on steroids. And finally, you can visualize everything to tell a really compelling story with your data. Now, if you're an Excel user, that whole workflow probably sounds super familiar, right? And it should. But Pandas, well, it takes every single one of those steps to a completely new level. So let's put them head to head and see. Yeah, the differences are pretty stark. Let's start with data size. You know how Excel just chugs and struggles with big files? Well, Pandas handles millions of rows like it's nothing. Then there's automation. Instead of all that manual work or trying to build complex macros, you can write a simple Panda script that can repeat a task flawlessly every single time. And third, and this one is huge, is reproducibility. Think about it. An Excel analysis is just a series of clicks that are almost impossible to trace back. But a Pandas analysis, it's a code script. anyone can run it and get the exact same result. It's totally transparent and verifiable.
So, what does this all mean in the end? Well, for Boris Paskover, and honestly for countless others, learning this one tool wasn't just an upgrade. No, it was a complete transformation.
And this is the ultimate payoff. What started out as just a solution to a data problem ended up becoming a gateway to a whole new career. Pandas was literally the bridge that took him from being the Excel guy to becoming a full-time software engineer. It just goes to show you that learning to code for data can open doors you never, ever expected.
And that kind of brings us full circle, doesn't it? Paskover frames his book not as some dense, technical manual, but as an invitation. It's an invitation for you, for anyone who has ever hit that wall with their spreadsheets, to take that next step, to explore what's possible with code, and to discover that it's way more accessible than you probably ever imagined.
And so that's where we'll leave it. Boris Paskover's story went from spreadsheets to software engineering, all because of one lucky discovery. So if you feel like you're hitting the limits of your current tools, the real question isn't just about learning something new. It's about what new capabilities, what new insights, what new career paths are just waiting to be unlocked inside your own data. So I'll ask you, what will your data story be?